everybody. Welcome back to the press. It's our second episode of the week. I'm Ryan Ballangy. Thanks for being here. Today, we're going to go over the remaining events of the week that are outside of the PGA Tour scope of things. So, nothing about Pebble Beach in this episode. We're going to talk about the LPGA Hilton Grand Vacations Tournament of Champions. We're going to talk about the Babco Energy's Bahrain Championship on the DP World Tour. We'll have picks for the Panama Championship on the Korn Ferry Tour, as well as a couple thoughts on the International Series in India, making its debut there on the Asian Tour. We've got some exciting news as part of today's show. We now have the LPGA database available for our members at golfnewsnet.com. So in addition to our PGA Tour database, we now have an LPGA database. Really excited about it. Labor of love. It's a 3-year database, so going back to 2022, and that's because that's when they started keeping track of strokes gained numbers through KPMG Performance Insights. So we grabbed those, we married those up to results database, put it all together for you, and now we have that available at golfnewsnet.com for our members. There are some limitations to it. KPMG doesn't keep track of non-member performance, so if you're an amateur or if you're a foreign-born player, not an LPGA member, they don't give you data for those tournaments when you're not a member. So there's a little limitation there to it, but for the vast majority of the data, 95% of it, you've got strokes gained and finish data and all of that good stuff. And we're starting to do modeling around it. So we did our first ever model around the LPGA this week. And we're going to talk about that in this episode. We're going to leave with that. Then we'll do picks for the other 3 events. We'll do a little preview of the DP World Tour event as well. So let's get into everything about the LPGA's season opener. This is the Hilton Grand Vacations Tournament of Champions. It's played in the Orlando area at Lake Nona Golf and Country Club. It's par 72. That graphic is off. It is not 6,972 yards. It's about 500 yards shorter than that. Mistype on my part. It's a $2 million purse, $300,000 to the winner. Last couple of years have been sub $2 million, like $1.5 million, so $225 to the winner. And they bumped it up this year, which has been nice. And then 500 Race to the CME Globe points to the winner. We have a 32-player field here this week at Lake Nona. You have to have won in the last 2 seasons on the LPGA to qualify for this thing. And if you recognize what's happened in the last couple of years between Lydia Ko and Nelly Korda just hoovering up trophies left and right, then you realize there aren't that many spots to win, right? And there are a number of players who skip this because they don't want to either come stateside, maybe they're overseas and they want to stay in Korea or Australia or whatever. But a number of players do come over here, and a bunch of the players who are from America obviously play. So it's a 72-hole, no-cut event, which is a great thing for the players. They're guaranteed to get paid. 32 players, not that many players to beat, which is another nice facet of this. There is a Pro-Am component to this, but it's not a traditional Pro-Am. It's a celebrity amateur tournament, and that's played under its own rules, its own field, but the players are interspersed together, the celebrities and the professionals, although they're playing totally separately. The amateurs are playing under a modified Stableford scoring system. Player with the highest points wins. We're not going to talk about betting that whatsoever, but there are basically more celebrities in the field than professionals by a factor of almost 2 to 1 here this week. So something to keep in mind. You've got to pay attention to that because there's going to be pairings around that. Pros are going to be paired with amateurs each day. You probably will, in some cases, have 1 pro with 2 AMs. It changes things up just a little bit. So that's something to keep in mind thinking about this week. That said, let's take a look at the betting odds for the field. We're looking at, these are the players in the top 25 of 32, basically. We excluded anybody after 75 to 1. Those players really have no chance to win. This is a longer list. This is the effective field here. You look at Nelly Korda plus 375, coming off of a year when she won 7 times. I mean, she's won a lot of golf tournaments in the last couple of years. And if you look at players in the history of the LPGA who have won at least 6 times in a year in the modern era, so going back like 40, 50 years, the next year, basically the average win total for those players is like 4. So you would expect Nelly to win a bunch of trophies again this year. That's not going to go anywhere. She did a great job toward the tail end of the year, kind of recovering things of her season. So I expect her to get off to a good start here. This is a golf course in Lake Nona. I've played it probably 3 or 4 times now. It's a golf course that's a little tight off the tee. if you're not used to Florida golf, but it is relatively wide open. The really important thing to me about this golf course is getting the ball out there as far as you can. And Lydia Ko obviously kind of flies in the face of that. She's done well here, but Brooke Henderson does not. Who has won here as well. Putting the ball out there comfortably in the fairway opens up a lot of things about this golf course. It makes it a kind of pitch and putt. And if you can make this place a pitch and putt, the greens are the challenge here. Lots of tiers, lots of kind of green within greens, areas you've got to be able to hit. So for Henderson, being able to get a wedge in hand with a driver in play really set her up to do well. Lydia Ko doesn't need distance. She's just a great iron player. So you've got to be able to be precise with your irons. I think finding your best way to be as precise as you can, leaving the shortest distance possible, is the ideal path here. Hayram Rue had a great year last year, 12-1. Ayaka Furue, 14-1 with Celine Boutier and Rio Takeda. Rio won in Japan toward the end of the season, or won to take up membership. So we don't have a lot of strokes gain data about her. We kind of had to approximate using not the KPMG system, but rather using what they have for round by round data and put it all together. But she comes out pretty high in the model. You'll see Henderson's 15-1, Jin Young 15-1, coming off of a not so great year. Rose Zhang's 22-1, Hannah Green, Megan Kang, Minji Lee, all 25-1. Minji Lee has gone to the broomstick, so we've been told. So that'll be very interesting to see. She's been working with in the offseason. She putts historically very badly. It's ball striking that gets her wins. If that starts to work for her, watch out. Might be an interesting number at 25. Angel Yin's 25-1. Lauren Coughlin coming off a 2-win season, 35-1. Now lives in Florida full time. Makes it kind of interesting. Hugh Kim, 40. Your 45s, Allison Corpuz, Amy Yang. Amy Yang's kind of interesting anywhere. Ashley Buhai, 45-1, I think is worth a thought. Alim Kim, I actually like quite a bit this week. I didn't put her in my picks, 55-1, but I do like her chances here. I love Patty T. She has been bet down. She was in like the 70 to 81 range. She's been bet down to 60. Leona McGuire's in there as well, trying to have a comeback season. Yuka Sasso, 60-1. I think some people are going to be on her. Prajiana Rukarn is 70-1, and then I included Alexa Pano here because I want her at 75-1. Last year I had her in this tournament like 120-1. She almost got there. Would have been a heck of a win. She likes this golf course, likes playing Florida golf. I think it's worth looking at. Obviously, her putting is her downside, and that's what really forces her to model out not so well most weeks. But if she does putt well and she hits the ball pretty well, she's got a chance here. I think it's worth looking at. All right, let's look at our first ever model here for the LPGA. This is it. There's not going to be a whole lot of shockers in here, I'm going to be honest with you. But I think you got to look at what you see here this week and be pretty willing to stick to chalk for the most part. The values aren't going to be the best this week. Too many good players and too short of a field. But Nelly's far and away number one. Lydia Ko's far and away number two. But not as far as you think over Ayaka Furue, who just gains strokes so consistently that that's really her calling card. It's kind of like a Patrick Cantlay situation where she just keeps gaining strokes in the field and then it averages out over time. And that's what our model is based on. It's the same concept as our PGA Tour model. We're looking 1 to 2 year windows. Look at the last 3 years of an event. Look at last 10 events played. Weighted competition, put all that together. What's interesting here about this model is the Rolex Women's World Golf Ranking works a little bit differently than the official World Golf Ranking. A 32-player field like this only gets like 30 points to the winner. So that doesn't really work that way, not quite that way in the official World Golf Ranking model, where like the Tour Championship model, where you get the best players of the year at the tail end, that tends to get like 50 points. So a little bit undervaluing here. Expanded the range of this a little bit just to account for that. But Hayram Rue 4th, Jin Young Ko 5th, Rio Takeda 6th, Brooke Henderson 7th, Celine Boutier 8th, Hugh Kim 9th, and Lynn Grant 10th. So nothing, I think, out of place there with that. I mean, I think people are going to fire on Lydia Ko because she had a great year. She's played well here. She likes here. She's from the area, calls it home. It's home game. I would also look at Brooke Henderson because she was at the PGA Merchandise Show last week, which is the biggest industry show in golf. That's in Orlando. So she's already in the area, already acclimated. Weather was terrible in the Orlando area last week. It's going to be better this week. So she's had some time to acclimate. deal with the travel, all of that good stuff. I think that's a tip worth looking at. I certainly like Patty T here this week. That makes a whole ton of sense to me. And I've seen other people on Yuka Sasso, which I think is worth mentioning. I also do want to mention our LPGA 6 group. We didn't get the graphic together in time for this, but it's a group of us on X. Follow me at Ryan Ballinger. You can follow a whole group. I retweet our group picks each week. So we're going to do picks around a player. It's kind of a short favorite, a player it's a mid favorite, player that's a little longer shot, and a player we like for a top 10. So for me this week, I went not totally off base here, I don't think. Like I said, I like Alexa Pano. That made a ton of sense. Some people are like a Minjee Lee with the putter change. Some people liked Brooke Henderson to win because I liked her for a top 10. They liked her to win. But I think that's worth looking at each and every week. It's a good group. We did really well. We started kind of in the middle of the year last year. I think we hit like 6 or 7 winners in half a season between us. So we're doing good stuff here. And the LPGA, for those of you who have been listening to this and go, why would I bet on the LPGA? Because there's so much value in this market outside of weeks like this one, where you're going to be able to get a good number on a player in that 50, 60, 100 to 1 range that has a decent chance to win, provided that Nelly Korda and Lydia Ko don't have a repeat of last season and win effectively a third of the tournaments to themselves. I don't think that's going to happen again this year. There's a lot of value in the LPGA market. That's why we're going to bring it to you. That's why we believe in it. Let's switch gears over to the Bahrain Championship, the Bapco's Energies Bahrain Championship on the DP World Tour this week. This is the next event in their run through the Middle East. They had their run in the UAE, where they played Dubai, and then in Ras Al Khaimah. Now we are in Bahrain, in the Kingdom of Bahrain, which actually just hosted, I'm a big darts fan, they just hosted the PDC, one of their Masters tournaments, which is a fun kind of event of basically demonstration darts, exhibition darts with some prize money attached. But Royal Golf Club hosts within the Kingdom of Bahrain. It's a par 72 golf course, 7,302 yards. We're just going to roll through picks here for the next couple of events because we don't do modeling for the DP World Tour, and we're going to handle it a little bit more express style now that we've got all this kind of stuff up for the TV side. For this week, I like 3 players in particular. I like Laurie Cantor at 20-1. David Puig and Patrick Reed, both LIV players, current LIV players, are higher up on the board. I like David Puig. I think he's a great player. I think he has a very decent opportunity to crack into the top 75 in the world this year if he can get access to the major championships. He's a talent. He can play, but I don't like that number. I like Laurie Cantor here at 20-1. Good start to the season. Great year last year. Julian Guerriere, 45-1 I like. And then I want to throw in Jason Scrivener, the Aussie. He tends to play well in warm weather. He tends to play well just kind of in difficult environments, and this can be one. It also is a tournament that is prone to longer shots winning. Dylan Fratelli won here as a super long shot last year, like 150 or 200-1, and that's a big deal on the DP World Tour, where on a PGA Tour that he'd be like 600-1, but this is 150-1 on the DP World Tour, a little bit different number for Fratelli last year. So just a few picks here. I still don't really feel like we've got a good handle on the full field players because we really only had Ras Al Khaimah to tell us anything. And this tournament, this golf course is it's not a bad golf course at all. It just seems to kind of produce strange champions. So relying at the top of the table is not going to be a good course of action this week. Let's get over to the International Series in India. This is the second event of the year for the Asian Tour. They had the Philippine Open to start. That was a $500,000 purse. We're multiplying that by a factor of 4 or 5 this week. Can't remember if it's $2 or $2.5 million, but this is the first international series event. It's the first time that this series is going to be in India. It's at DLF Golf and Country Club. So it's a somewhat familiar course if you are a viewer of the DP World Tour. They've played plenty of events there, the Indian Open, over the years. And some of these players in the field are going to have had experience with it. The LIV guys, maybe not so much. You got Bryson DeChambeau played. You got Paul Casey played. Abe Answer, Anirban Lahiri. You've got a number of LIV guys who are going to go over to Riyadh next week for the LIV debut. But they're playing here this week. Bryson's here to support Lahiri. Paul Casey's there to support Lahiri. Charles Howell III is there to support Lahiri. Their Crushers team won LIV. This is a tight golf course. This is a visually intimidating golf course. Par is a great score on almost every hole on this golf course. A lot of land movement, a lot of blind shots, just a lot of trust you have to have. I think experience is going to matter here. I do like Abe Answer 16-1. Tends to play well in desert or desert-like golf, where you just kind of can't miss. He has a lot of victories and a lot of good results in his career on places like that. Lahiri, of course, home nation hero, 22-1, has experience here. I think he's going to be amped up to play this week. John Catlin, I also like at 22-1, a DP World Tour experience guy, has played in this event, has a good sense of how to play tight golf courses, has some of his best results on tight golf courses between Valderrama and Hong Kong and just other places he's played extremely well over the years, tend to be kind of tighter places. So I like his chances here. And then I'm going to throw out Wade Ormsby, the Aussie, at 110-1. One, because of experience. Two, because he had a fourth place finish in the Hong Kong Open, the Asian Tour. Again, another tight golf course just a few months ago. And he's also been cashing a lot. So he's been in that, 40, 50th place range in a lot of events, but he's making money. He's not missing cuts. He's stringing it together pretty well. He's a solid enough player. If he gets the chance and he has experience here, I do like his chances to pull it off. Then let's talk about the Korn Ferry Tour, and we'll wrap everything up here on today's show. So, Panama Championship is the first event of a string of events in Central and South America. You've got Panama, Colombia, back-to-back, 2 weeks off, come back, play the Argentine Open, and then in Chile, and then they're going to come back to the United States at the end of March, beginning of April, to start that run of the schedule. But this string of 4 events is really important on this schedule. You may or may not know we do a show about this called The Road to French Lick, where we chronicle the Korn Ferry Tour. This is a big week for a lot of players. A lot of travel involved. You've got to line everything up. To a degree, you have to have some experience, I think, or just a lot of stamina. So you're either young or old, somewhere in there. And you've played 2 events so far this year, Sunday to Wednesday affairs. They've been in the Bahamas. They haven't necessarily told us a whole lot. If you look at the top 5 in the point standings, you've got Hank Lebioda. You've got basically a complete unknown in the guy who won at Baco. You've got Russell Knox, who is a PGA Tour veteran. You've got S.H. Kim, who lost the playoff to Lebioda Atlantis. It's kind of a mismatch so far. So we don't really know what we have here. I like Christo Lamprecht a lot. I think he's figuring it out. I've seen some good stuff, seen some signs to believe him at 28-1. Austin Hitz played pretty well, 35-1. I think is worth a look. And I'm going to throw in a veteran presence here, Fabian Gomez, just trying to figure a guy who's wily, who can get his way around. It's not that long of a golf course. If the scoring turns away from 15, 16, 20 under, which typically scoring here can be very difficult in this golf course, I like someone with experience rather than someone who is used to making a lot of birdies and eagles because they're younger, and that's the kind of setups that they tend to play. So I think that's everything for the week. Again, I'm as we try to figure out how we're going to do these shows that are outside the scope of the PGA Tour preview, we're going to try and lean into the LPGA as much as possible, do the modeling for it. We'll talk about every single major tour as much as we can this year. We'll talk about LIV. Obviously, we talked about the DP World Tour here. The Asian Tour will probably not be most weeks. International Series events where you have decent field, we'll include them. Korn Ferry Tour will certainly include. Champions Tour is an interesting betting experience because it's really a form of arbitrage in a lot of cases, most years, where you have 4 or 5 players who just kind of pass around trophies and top finishes, and you try to bet pretty much all of them and just see if you get odds bet good enough, you could probably just come out ahead based on them, and then you get the occasional long shot winner. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. They're heading to Morocco next, and we'll talk about them on the show as well. If you have any questions, get a hold of me, Ryan at thegolfnewsnet.com. I'm on social media at Ryan Ballinger. You can join Golf Newsnet for $40 a year, $60 for 2 years, or $80 for 3 years. And this is the last week to do it. We're ending it after this week over at golfnewsnet.com. Then we'll still offer the 1, 2, and 3 year pricing, but the discounts will not be nearly as good as they were for the fall special. So take advantage of that. Get on the PGA modeling. Get on the new LPGA modeling. You're going to make money in that market if you pay enough attention, and you will be very happy to have spent that little amount of money to get those kinds of insights. Back next week with more shows. We'll get ready for the Phoenix Open, which is a huge betting week. We'll spend a lot of time with that. Obviously, we'll do a whole show on that, and then we'll kick into everything else as it goes along. I'm Ryan Ballingy. Thanks so much for watching or listening to the show, and we will talk to you next week on The Press.